Hello YouTube. In this video I'm going to show you how to get Minecraft server, and you can also come back here and check up from time to time for an updated jar. I know they have the exe right here, but if you go to minecraft.net download, you can download the jar file, which can be used on various operating systems: Linux, Unix, OS X, Windows, and it will actually install what you need for the server. So I'm going to show you how to get this, and then how to actually get the server set up and running, and how to make sure everything's going. Okay, so the first thing you're going to want to do is right click on this jar file and then click Save Link As. That's doing this in Firefox. You're going to want to save it as the jar file. You don't want to do this in Edge if you have Windows 10, because for some reason it tries to save it as a zip file, which is all wrong. And if you right click on it, it doesn't give you the save file as or save link as option. So you definitely want to use Chrome or Firefox for this. So once you finally get the option going, click Save. And it really shouldn't take too long to download, because it's a really small file. So once you have it downloaded, you can go to Windows Explorer or File Explorer, whichever you may have depending on what version of Windows you're running. And you see how we have this Minecraft server.jar. So definitely one of the first things you want to make sure you have is a working install of Java. So in order to make sure you have both versions needed, and you're really going to want to use the 64-bit version, especially if you're using a 64-bit operating system. So just type in Java download. And you can go to the Java official site, click on the download button at the top. And you're going to want see all Java downloads. Once you get that option, you have the Windows Offline and Windows Offline 64-bit. Just right click on both of those and click Save Link As if you're using Firefox, or Google Chrome, and you can save both of those installers for Java. So now we have the jar file downloaded, we have Java downloaded. So we're going to go to our downloads folder, and we need to install both of the different versions of Java. So we're going to install the 32-bit version first. Both of them are version 8 update 66. Alright, the 32-bit version is now installed. Firefox, okay. Now we're going to install the 64-bit version, and the 64-bit version is the main one we're going to be running it off of. Okay, so once the installer comes up, click Install, and then click Close. And we now have both of the Java versions installed, so you can delete those. And as you can see, now this actually has the little Java icon next to it, so it can be executed. So now when you double click on it, it'll actually start up the server. The first thing the server is going to do is it's going to immediately crash out. That is absolutely normal. Okay, now one of the things you're going to have to do is go into the EULA, change the false to true, close that out and hit save, so that way it resaves it. Now rerun your Minecraft server. That accepts the end user license agreement and allows the actual server application to fully execute and download the files that it needs. If your Windows security alert pops up, make sure you allow it over across the network, so that way it can actually connect out, and will allow connections over the network to take place. And the first thing it's also going to do is create the very first world for your server. 94, 96, 98, and poof. It is officially done and has actually created its very first world. Now you can close out the server application, and you'll see that you have this massive list right here of everything that's there. So what you're going to want to do at this point is create a new folder. So you're going to go new folder. You're going to create a folder called Minecraft server. Grab all these files that it just created, right click, click cut, open up the new folder, paste it in there, and now all of it's packaged up nice and neat in its own server application. So what we're going to do is take that Minecraft server, cut that, and dump it directly on the root drive. This makes all your links and everything, and it's going to make your batch file that you're going to set up shortly a whole lot easier to configure. So now we're going to rerun the server so that way it can refine itself, make sure everything's working correctly. And if the server loads and actually boots up and shows that it has the spawn area created, at this point it is ready. It by default starts out with 128 mega RAM dedicated. That is far from enough RAM for this system to function properly. So I will show you here shortly how to actually set it up to go in and dedicate more memory to the server. But in order to make configuration changes to the server, one of the things you have to do is edit the server properties. Now, there is a program out there that is called Notepad++. That will actually be your best friend for editing these files. And I will provide the links to all of this in the description. So, once you get to the Notepad++ site, click in the download. You're going to go download the most current version. Click Save File. Once it finishes downloading, you can click it to run it and install Notepad++. So just leave it on English or select your language, click OK, click Next, click I agree, click Next again, and then click Install. At this point you can close your web browser. Notepad++ installs, deselect Run, and click Finish. And now you can right click on the server properties and click Edit with Notepad++. And here's all the layout for the properties. If you have a generator, you can program in your generator right here, your op permission levels, resource pack hashes. So you have allowed nether, you can change that to true or false. This is all your base configuration for the actual server. This is where you can set up the whitelist to be used if you want to use a whitelist for limiting who can connect to your server. This is where you can set up your seed. You can actually put in your server's IP address. If you're using a non-static IP, which means you're booting DHCP and your IP address can change, then you're going to want to leave this blank so that way it can configure the IP based on the system. If you have a static IP, you can program in the IP address right here, and that'll get you up and running. Now I'm going to show you the actual setup on a live server. This is my live Minecraft server, and I use an active argument on it, which if you have multi-core CPUs, you're going to see this can't keep up and time errors all the time. You can ignore those. They're really no big thing. You'll see right here it says memory use 77 meg, 96% free. The reason it's like that is because of the fact that I have this thing set up to use 2 gig of RAM. The way I did that is I set up a batch file which executes the program, and you're going to use this line right here, and it adds in some parameters, parallel threads, incremental pacing. That's all used to help it out with the multi-core system. This is the jar, and it's running server version 1.8.8.jar, and this gives it the path to Java. You will have to go and look at your install, and you don't want to go under program files x86. You want to go under the normal program files, and you're going to look for your Java folder. Once you double click on that, this folder right here is going to be one of the key points, as you can see right here, and where to direct the program to look for Java. And then this line right here tells the system that it's dedicating 2 gig of RAM. So this entire line here I'm actually going to add in to the description, so that way you have this to use to execute your server. And once you actually get your server up and running, then you will be able to connect up to it through the IP address. And to find out what the IP address to the system is real quick, all you have to do is come down here and type in CMD, and if you're on Windows 7, you'll click on start, and then at the bottom for the search you'll put in CMD right there, and then just type in ipconfig and hit enter, and it'll come up and tell you what your IPv4 address is for that particular system. With that IPv4 address, you can get in there, connect up to your own server, and play. Now, if you know what your external IP address is, then you can invite friends. As long as it's open on your firewall and on your router, you can invite friends to come in and play on your own server. So getting your server is not super difficult, and it's really a way to have your own world and your own setup that you can play around in that is separate from the main game itself. So hopefully this information helps you out and you can get your own server up and going. Okay, and with your Minecraft server, in order to create a batch file that'll allow you to do the execution you need to, one of the things we're going to have to do is give ourselves the ability to save things as something else by renaming the extension. Now, we're going to try it without making any configuration changes to Windows 10. I know for a fact in Windows 7 it's going to be a little different. So one of the things we're going to do is go to New, and you're going to put in a text document. And we're going to name this Minecraft. We'll just name it mcserver.bat. And you can see that it stayed as a text document. So you're going to have to do this in both Windows 7 and Windows 10. Come up here to View. And in Windows 10 you can hit File Name Extensions. In Windows 7 you're going to have to go up there and go to View and then Folder Options. And you'll have to select the hidden items and the file names extensions from there. So once you have the file name extensions, you can go back to rename, right click on the file, rename, and then we're going to cut out the .txt, hit yes whenever it asks if you're sure you want to change, and that will now make that a batch file. That effectively makes it a command line executable. So Now we're going to take our line that we need to execute this with 2 gig of RAM. And since I'm going to do this on the I'm going to show you both ways, but since I'm going to do this actually on the virtual machine, I'm actually going to configure it with only 1 gig. And what we're going to do once we have the batch file created is we're going to right click on it and click edit with Notepad++. That's after you've installed it. Since it's not going to let us copy and paste, which you should be able to do, I'm going to manually type this in. So bear with me just a moment as I actually get all this typed into the VM. Get my screen set up here for optimum. And one of the things you'll want to remember is you do want the quotation marks, because that is part of the system telling itself where to find this. It's going to go to C:/ program files /java /, and this is where you're going to want to go and look at where your Java is actually installed, because this part right here may not match to what's currently in this, and you'll have to go in and make a minor edit. Right now it's an identical match, so we're going to use JRE 1.8.0.0_66, which is the actual folder name /bin /javaw.exe. And then from here we can actually start giving the server its commands. So the first thing we're going to do is tell it that it is a server, and we're going to tell it that it's using a 64-bit system. So now we're going to set what the actual memory usage is going to be. And we do that with the XMX. Remember, the first X is capitalized. And we're going to set this at 1024M. And we got to do -Xms1024M. And you can add in all this other stuff that will help it out, or you can choose to leave that out. I'm not going to put it in on this particular one, so the next line is just going to be -jar. So we're going to do the -jar, and then we're going to finish it with the actual name of the file. So we're going to go back to our Minecraft folder. And remember, you have to create that batch file inside of your Minecraft server folder. All you have to do now is right click on the server jar, click rename, hit Control-C, click back out of it. And then you can come right up here and hit Control-V, paste it, and then just add .jar. That's going to give it the actual command to be able to execute out the server and start it up. Now I'm going to copy this line. We're going to go the next line down, paste it, and I'm going to change this to 2048. And what I'm doing is I'm creating a secondary executable that will actually give it the 2 gig of RAM. And you can comment that out in a batch file by going to the very front of the line and putting in REM and space. You'll see that it all turned green. That means that's been commented out and it will not execute that line. Now another thing you can do is you can add a space and no GUI to the end of it, and it won't give you the graphical pop-up. The problem with that being is if you don't have the graphical pop-up, you have absolutely no reference, nothing to look at. You can't go in and execute commands on it, so you probably don't want to go that route so much. So I would highly recommend you just use the line like this. Always remember that you have to keep up with this folder, and every time you update Java, you're going to have to go in and change it, because this part right here will change. Eventually this part right here is going to change. So every time you update it, you're going to need to change it over for the newer version. Now that we have this set up, just click on save right here, click on the X up here, and you now have the batch file for the executable. So if you double click on that batch file, well, it didn't work, so we're going to actually remove this D64. And we'll try it now. Still errored out. And you may have to do some troubleshooting on this. Do not feel bad if you do. That's just part of it. So we're going to go back to the batch file, edit Notepad++, 1.8.0. So we're going to remove the -server command. Hit save. And we'll try it now. Looks like it's going to execute this time. And there it is. And you'll see now that it says 96 and 95% memory free. So it's now using 2 gig of RAM. We have troubleshot the problem. As you can see, sometimes it takes a little bit to get it figured out. So we're going to go back to Notepad++ and go to our server file. We're going to cut out those particular ones from the next line. And now we're going to actually come up here and say echo off. That will make it where it no longer displays this line right here. And now we're going to come down here echo. That right there is going to make it say that it's loading the Minecraft server. The echo offline will tells it not to type this out. It still sends the command, but it won't be there for you to read. So you close this, shrink it down, and now we'll run the MC bat again. Okay, and you can see that it didn't give the long command. It actually displayed echo off. And then you have the echo right here, loading your Minecraft server. Once it's loaded, you can close that out. And now the server's sitting there running, ready for you to connect up to it and play. In this particular mode with the GUI, you can send commands by using the slash. You can put in help to be able to see what the actual commands are. There's a long list there. Or you can come here, put in /op, and the username, you can make somebody an op right here. So you definitely want the GUI for those reasons. Now, to go back and look at the server properties, you want to right click on server properties, hit edit with Notepad++, modified, yes. So you want it to spawn NPCs. You can set hardcore mode right here. You have your snooper, your animals, your whitelist. If you choose to use the whitelist, you have to edit the whitelist with the people that you actually want to be able to connect up. You can set PvP right here. The server resource packs, that way you're actually using a resource pack for the server and anyone connected to it. You can enable the command block right here, set the primary game mode, maximum amount of players. Most of the time, you're going to want to run about 10. If you have a really good high-end internet connection with a high upload speed, I would say anything 15 meg or higher, you can run 20. And then you can turn monsters off right here by changing that to false. You can set it to generate the structures or not automatically, and you can set the message of the day, which is what it displays whenever you go to connect to the server. Now, to ban somebody, if you're trying to do it by IP, you're going to right click here, go to edit with Notepad++, put in the IP address right here. Once you save it, that IP address will no longer be able to connect after you reboot the Minecraft server. Then your banned players, you can do it by player name right here. And then here's your whitelist for specific people that you want to allow. If you're using the whitelist, you can add players into this file by editing it the same way, and that by putting in the player names there, it automatically makes them on op every time they connect. And that's pretty much the major parts of working with a Minecraft server. It's pretty simple, pretty basic. And then as far as your world, you can set your world right here. You can replace the world with completely different worlds. You can have multiple worlds right here inside of this folder. You just create it, set it by a different folder name, and then you go into the server properties, and where it says world, you just put in the name of the folder that the world is in, and it'll switch over to that. So it makes it pretty easy to actually switch between worlds and different gameplay scenarios. This is Morbid Feast, and I'll be seeing you around.